Very quick disclaimer before we start. I am currently suffering from COVID-19, and as a result, I'm not going to be my usual ultra bubbly self because my voice just isn't up to it. Please don't take it as any kind of apparent lack of enthusiasm or anything like that. Also, apologies for the inevitably poor performance. Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Live here, and yes, I have played The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And I'm going to tell you all about it, as I have done in the past, but not with this game, because I've only just played it. Nintendo invited me to the Nintendo of Europe headquarters in Frankfurt in order to give the game a go, and unfortunately, I think it was on that journey that I got all this. But I did get to play Tears of the Kingdom for 70 whole minutes, so you know what? Swings and roundabouts. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. So, let me take you through the whole shebang. I got up at like... I got up at 5 a.m. I flew over to Frankfurt. I sat down and played the game. Nintendo were very nice. They took me through everything, 70 minutes, and it was split into 2 separate parts. And I was able to get capture. Oh, you lucky sausages. Having said that, I was only allowed to get capture of the second part, which was more structured. The first chunk was, it was just a sort of a 20 minutes. And as I say, I'm sorry, I don't have any capture of this. I wasn't allowed. But I was running around on a sky island and just, you know, kind of... It was mostly to sort of like get to grips with the controls, which, surprise, surprise, are very similar to Breath of the Wild. So the guy who was taking me through it, he said, I mean, I was allowed to do whatever I liked in this section, but he said, you know, sort of, oh, there's these minecart rails, and he said, and you got a minecart there, but one of them was broken at one point, and he said, how are you going to get up there? And I was like, aha, I know what, and actually, no, this was beforehand. I found this hook on the ground, this big old hook, and I was like, I'm going to stick that on my shield. And I thought I could just, you know, jump off the edge, hold my shield out, and the hook would be up like that, and I'd just be able to wing my way down. That didn't work. I don't know whether it does work in the game if you do it properly, but at the very least, I couldn't get it to work. But the thing with the minecart, and it's what was expected of me, is you attach, you attach this hook onto the minecart, and you, like, I don't know, you give it some fans or some rockets or stuff, and you hang it from the rail rather than putting it on top. Very clever, very saucy. I didn't do that. I tried all sorts of things. I tried to be too clever. I tried to put fans in varying arrangements in order to compensate for the fact and sort of make it essentially kind of float along the rails. It didn't work. I also tried attaching a fan to my shield and shield surfing. I just sort of went, whah, and landed on the shield and fell off, so that doesn't work either. Or again, maybe it does. I had 70 minutes, and I did my best to try as many things as I could, which meant I got like 1 try of each. But after trying and failing to be too clever and attaching, you know, fans in various locations to try and compensate and make it just have that little bit of extra lift, I couldn't get it to work. So I just slapped as many rockets on as I could and just went which tickled the guy taking me through at no end. Incidentally, who was also called Alex. There were 3 Alexes there. It was a spicy Alex time. I then got to go like through some caves and things like that, and again, this was only 20 minutes, and I spent a lot of that time trying to put fans on in a way that would compensate, and it didn't work. Probably misguided, but you know what? I was trying to have fun. But I went through these caves, and I fought some of those things that they showed in the trailer. It's like a sort of a worm thing that comes down. That took a while to destroy one of those, but I didn't have the greatest weaponry. Obviously, I've got to try out the fusion system, as I said, with like the shield and the hook and everything. And I found some interesting combinations. I don't think I found anything necessarily revolutionary, but I was very pleased with something that happened in the second part, which you'll even get to see with your little eyeballs. But I killed these creatures, I got some chests and stuff like that, and there's a new plant in the world. I cannot for the life of me remember what it's called, and I don't have any footage of it. Blah. But essentially, it's like these little pods, and you can throw them, and they light up. You know, they produce a small amount of glow, and they've probably got glow in the name, let's be honest. But not only, but also, you get these big ones that you can throw, and I'm gonna hasten to talk about throwing. You throw them and they illuminate pretty much the entire room. I don't know whether there's like a maximum limit of what they can illuminate, but yeah. It would have been really handy in Trials of the Sword, let's put it that way. To finish off, I just tried a couple of different fusion things, and interestingly, there's a lot of items in there from Breath of the Wild, but they've got new names. For example, the Boko Bat's in there, but it's just called like a sturdy thick stick or a sturdy thick club or something like that. It's made it much more sort of vague. I think basically because of the whole fusion system, you are creating new items, and when you create a fused weapon, it does actually name it. So for example, you know, the whole thing that Aonuma did, you know, the tree branch and the rock, it actually calls it a rock hammer in the game, which is pretty cool. And I learned at this point that if you know, sort of when it comes to fusion, and you're sort of thinking, oh, but you know, sort of, surely they're not going to let me like attach an apple to the end of a stick, and if I did that, it's not going to do anything. I mean, you're almost right with the second part, but you can attach it and it technically does something. Every material in the game has like a fusion, a fuse attack power, and that means that, you know, an apple has a fuse attack power of 1, so it's still worth attaching anything to a base weapon rather than just using a base weapon. If you've got a tree branch, you might as well attach an apple to it. I'm just saying. And that was a thoroughly exciting moment, because I always sort of assumed that that would be the case and that you can fuse anything, but it was just so nice to actually go there and just be like, can I fuse this with this, even though it's pointless? And the game's just like, yeah, sure, you do you, friend. I almost forgot as well. This is why I record everything I play, because I don't have the greatest memory, particularly not right now. But I am very pleased to confirm that Koroks are back in the game. You know, I know we've seen them in the Aonuma gameplay, just, you know, sort of passing by. There was a Korok with like a big heavy backpack on, and he was like, I need to reach my friend. And yeah, that's a Korok. And which shouldn't be entirely surprising. But the trick with these Koroks is obviously they're way more obvious than most other Korok seeds. And yeah, they give you Korok seeds. I'm just giving it away, haven't I? But what you got to do with these guys is you've got to get them to their friend who has a camp nearby. And I think you speak to them, you know, when you speak to them, then the camp just spawns. I'm pretty sure I looked over beforehand where the camp, you know, eventually appeared and it wasn't there, but I can't be absolutely certain about that. But the nice thing is, you know, obviously, you know, big heavy backpack. This poor Korok can't walk. You got to carry him, and you can carry him however you see fit. Although obviously stasis is no longer a thing, so you can't just whack him over. I've said that now, with the Ultra Hand there probably is a way you can just whack him over. So I slapped a minecart down on the rails that connected these two little bits of Sky Iron. It's almost like it's a puzzle. And I just stuck that geezer on there. I didn't even put, you know, you could just put him in, but I had the option to glue him in, and I was like, I don't want this guy falling off. So I just glued him on and then just stuck a fan on and let it go over. But ruminating upon it now, I wouldn't be at all surprised if you couldn't just, you know, literally just stick a fan on him and just hope he makes it over to the other side. The Ultra Hand is ludicrously powerful. It is ludicrously powerful. And what's really nice as well is the whole idea of like building vehicles and stuff. It didn't immediately grab me when I first saw it, I can't deny, but it does manage to weave itself into the gameplay really well. It's a little bit fiddly to control, but, you know, I'm pretty sure I got it down. And as far as I can tell, there are basically no limitations. Like, you know, sort of all the time I've been thinking about this, and it's always, you know, sort of, oh, you know, well, I'll build this vehicle and you can have like a control platform, or, you know, even without a control platform, I'll jump in and then I'll strike it and it'll take me to where I'm going. But a vehicle is not just that. You could do anything. Like, actually anything, and it's kind of frightening. You carry vehicle parts around with you wherever you go. In fact, that orb that we've seen and I've mentioned in videos in the past, the orbs that we've seen that look like gacha machines, those are where you get Zonai devices. And there may be other ways as well. I don't know, but you can carry these parts around. They're like in little capsules, and whenever you like, you just hold D up and you just hop on over to it and just go, stick that down, and it'll just appear in front of you. And then you got a rocket, so you can attach it to a Korok and send him over to his friend. But the point I'm trying to make is that the Ultra Hand is ludicrously powerful. Like, something I didn't even consider is, you know, it's all about, oh, you know, sort of you build things, you stick them together, and, you know, for a long time it was just like, it's just vehicles and just vehicles you can pilot. But no, you can create, well, we saw like a device, like almost like a trap, like a turret that was in one of the trailers where Link shot it and it spun around and it shot lasers everywhere. That's using the Ultra Hand. But when I got back, I actually had the thought, you know, because again, I was still sort of stuck on the train of piloting vehicles, or at least riding in them. But why couldn't I just create a payload, you know, create sort of like a cart that's full of a load of explosive barrels that I found, or bomb flowers, because, yeah, they're in the game again. Yeah, I mean, elemental arrows are gone, baby. And you sort of tap it lightly, which is how you activate the Zonai stuff. And you just make sure it's pointed in the right direction. It just goes whee all the way into an enemy camp, and from a distance with a fire arrow or something. I don't know. I didn't have a chance to test this because I didn't think of it until I got back, and that's not how causality works. But you've sent it in, and it just explodes, and it's just like, yep, bye bye. You know, something that was always an opportunity, like an opportunity in Breath of the Wild. You know, you could kind of manufacture them, but you could never like actually just like be like, okay, yeah, I'll do that here, because you're carrying all the stuff with you all the time. Or, you know, sort of maybe you find some bits because there's like these deposits from the carpenter man. Oh, it's Bolson. But these deposits have like a little sign, and it's like for rebuilding Hyrule. So, you know, I didn't get any plot stuff, unfortunately, but it really feels like they're going towards the idea that Hyrule was really trying to rebuild itself, and Ganondorf has only gone and spoilt it. But I've waffled plenty about that stuff. Let's talk about the stuff I can properly show you. So the second session, I started on the ground, and there was like an enemy camp, and the guy was like, all right, let's see if you can take out that enemy camp. And I was like, all right. And my first thought was just to go in guns blazing, because I thought, you know, sort of, I could try and be clever or like build a vehicle or something. But I thought, I've got limited time. I want to try and see as much as I possibly can. But I did see there was like a little lookout bokoblin, and I was like, yeah, you know, sort of, I reckon I could show off a bit. And, you know, sort of, I got my bow and I drew and fired, and it missed. And I tried again, and it was clear that it was too far away. And I thought, that's a shame, you know. And then I thought, in Breath of the Wild, you could get some bows that could shoot further. And then I remember the old fusing system, and I thought, what can I fuse to make an arrow go further? And my first thought was a key swing. And it worked. Honestly, that was such a fantastic moment. I was just sat there and I was like, oh, I wonder, fully expecting it not to work. And it just did. So I took out that guy, I took out a bokoblin and everything, and then there was a moblin that was by a load of explosive crates, and I thought to myself, aha, here's an opportunity to try another new feature. So, you know, in Breath of the Wild, you could throw weapons, couldn't you? If you didn't want them anymore, or if you had like the Master Sword equipped or some of the others, you could do like a special effect, you know, and go, where? But in Tears of the Kingdom, if you hold down the R button and then press and hold D up, you can go into your inventory and you can throw any material you like. You know, you could kind of throw things when you held them in Breath of the Wild, and, you know, you press D down or something when you're holding items, and you could sort of go, huh. Well, no, it's not like that. It is literally you lob it, and it's great fun. You can see some explosives, and if you're like, I want to be a little bit sneaky, and I haven't quite got the angle for like a fire arrow or something. Not that there are fire arrows, but there are red jelly things. You can just lob a little bomb flower over, just... And yeah, it was excellent. I loved it. And yeah, as I mentioned before, all of the elemental arrows are gone. It now means that actually there are way more elemental arrows, because you can attach so many different things using the fuse system. So if you attach like red chew jelly, you get a fire arrow. If you attach a bomb flower, you get a bomb arrow. If you attach, I don't know if this is the case, but at one point I did actually fire an arrow with standard like blue chew jelly on it, and I swear it was like water. But I'm sure you can also like attach the glow plant bud thing that you fire off. I fully imagine that you can do that to properly like big illuminate an area. That'd be great. I'm sure you can do that. There's another thing called a muddle bud, which is ridiculously good. What it does is I just attached it to an arrow. You may not even have to do that. And shot at an enemy, and it creates like a little area of effect. And any enemy caught in that, and it is only a little area of effect, any enemy caught in that gets muddled, and they start attacking each other. It's can you tell I had great fun? There's also something called a dazzle fruit, which I didn't get to use. I should have done. I should have. There were so many things that I regret not doing because I tried to pack in as much as I could, and even then I came up short. But from the description, it blinds foes, and yeah, I mean, I also got to take on a boss bokoblin, which honestly didn't seem all that, not particularly tough. I mean, I did die, but that's because I attached Topaz to an arrow and shot it from what I thought was a reasonable distance, but instead this happened. That's a good point, actually. Even though you'll get certain things that will have the same, like, elemental effect on an arrow, or presumably another weapon as well. For example, like Topaz and yellow chew jelly. Is it yellow or is it green? Like, they're both electric. They both deal the same elemental damage, but as green chew jelly, it just sort of goes poof, like a shock arrow. Topaz, well, you've seen what happens. I then got to go back up to the Sky Islands and have a bit of fun up there, and that was a little bit more sort of straightforward. One thing I did really like, because it was something that I had a question in my mind, you can traverse between different Sky Islands really quite easily, because they have like these floating platforms that appear to have no like mass, at least in terms of like their... I'm not a physicist, but they don't fall from the sky even with weight on them. And if you set them on a trajectory, it's like they exist in zero gravity, but still with wind resistance and stuff like that. So they do slow down, but like you can just, like stick a couple of rockets on, which rockets are great fun. I slapped a couple on and it just went whoosh straight across. And I tried it another time and I went whoosh up as well. And, I also at one point, I wanted to go in a direction that wasn't like dead straight, but also wasn't 45 degrees, and the rotation you have is kind of locked between sort of like the 8 cardinal directions, which makes sense. I did actually find out later on that if you just position yourself differently, you've got full 360 degree rotation by proxy. But regardless, so what I did is I put one forward and one at 45 degrees, and it went bang, straight in the direction I wanted to go. I was really chuffed with that. You've probably seen it in the footage already if you've got an eagle eye, but the travel medallion is a thing now, and obviously I know it wasn't Breath of the Wild, but it's just in the base game now, which is a really nice feature, which makes a lot of sense when you're going to be going up in the sky a lot where you can fall. I also found a standard Korok seed, and I've just remembered a detail that I didn't disclose before when I saved the Korok with the big old backpack, because there's a Korok at the other side. You get 2 Korok seeds. Oh, how many are going to be in the game? I hate to think. But yeah, there were standard Koroks as well. There was just like this pile of leaves. I burnt it. There was a rock underneath. Picked it up. Korok. Dropped it on his head. Same as it ever was. There was also some fun stuff with like this water puzzle where I had like these 2 or 3 basins, and I could like drain them by lifting a gate, and it would drain from one into the other, and then again, sort of down there. And there was a chest at the bottom, and the chest actually contained a wand, which I instantly forgot about and didn't attach anything to, and I have so much regret. But the puzzle was great fun. It was more like the sort of thing that you might get in like a shrine, but it's obviously just out in the open world. Definitely felt more, I suppose, more manufactured than what a lot of Breath of the Wild felt like in terms of its overworld. I really enjoyed it, and even more importantly, I had a full I had a full melee inventory when I picked up this magic wand, and I went down to the chest, I opened it, and the game was like, your inventory's full, and I was like, oh, here we go, and then it gave me all my weapons, and I could choose to drop any one of them. It only took 6 years. I then slapped like 2 plane bodies, like a bird-looking thing. I slapped 2 of those together, stuck a load of fans on, tried to fly it. It turns out it's too heavy. Don't do that. But I did have fun trying to get back up because I kept doing this sort of almost parabola type thing. Jumped off. I didn't want to use the travel medallion. I wanted to climb up. I made it. Oh, I think now would be a good time for me to do my my little, I don't want to say pre-prepared, but well, you'll see, my pre-prepared bit, but it's not pre-prepared. So building things with the Ultra Hand can take quite a long time. It's a little bit fiddly here and there, and it's fun to do, don't get me wrong, but if you just want to build something that you've already built time and time again, you know, it can be a bit tiring. There is a system that allows you to, like, speed up that process, but I wasn't allowed to use it, and I'm not allowed to tell you what it's called. Look forward to using it in the future. Honestly, I had an absolute flipping blast with this game. Like, I played it for 70 minutes. It felt like I played it for like 10. I was just gripped throughout the whole thing. I could have spent another 50 hours, and that sounds like an exaggeration, but I'm genuinely not exaggerating, and I'm not talking in one sitting, but I could have spent another 50 hours just faffing around with the Ultra Hand, because the Ultra Hand is, like, everyone's talking about, like, the fuse system and stuff like that, and that's powerful. The Ultra Hand is something else, because also, not only is it just building stuff and slapping them together, but also, it's magnesis for everything. Yeah, in the past you could use magnesis to pick up metal boxes and, like, slap them onto enemies, and, you know, sort of some other things as well. Kind of useful, you know, sort of, it was fun, but it was never always ultra practical. Always fun, but not always ultra practical. The Ultra Hand now makes it entirely feasible to do it with anything that happens to be laying around. Could be an explosive barrel, could be a not explosive barrel, a log, a big spiky ball, which admittedly is made of metal. You know, anything that's out there, you can just pick it up and you can throw it at enemies. I do think it's weaker than Magnesis used to be in terms of its damage output. I don't know that for certain, but it felt a bit weaker, and I can fully understand why, because you don't want to make the game too easy now, do you? I tried the thing with, like, attaching a rocket to my shield and going, whee, that works. That, honestly, that's... I'll be honest, that feels like a replacement for Rivali's Gale. I don't know whether it's, like, a fair exchange for it, but it's arguably more practical. I mean, and I imagine there may be an upper limit, but you can have an awful lot of Zonai devices in your... about your person, whereas you can only have 3 Rivali's Gales. I built like a hot air balloon thing, and I built one, and, you know, I was like, now I need a fire source, and the guy was like, well, you've got one, you've already used it, and it's like a fire-breathing head. It's another Zonai device, and so I used that, and I was like, yeah, that works, but that's not what I wanted to do. So then what I did is I got a bundle of wood out, and I was like, I'm going to get some flint, I'm going to create a campfire, and I'm going to stick that campfire in there, and I'm going to try and power it that way, because I thought, that's a good test. You know, it's a normal thing that goes through everyone's head. It turns out I didn't actually have any flint, but I did have a wood bundle, so I dropped it down, and I didn't have any fire weaponry. So what I did is I spawned the flame belching head, the Zonai device, just to set the wood on fire, and then I yeeted it, and then I put the wood, which wasn't actually a campfire, it was just the wood on fire. I stuck that under the balloon, and it worked an absolute treat. So the whole chemistry engine thing, it's being taken even further, and it is worryingly consistent. I even had the bold idea of having, like, a flammable platform with a hot air balloon part on it, and I'd, like, stand at the back, and I'd have my own little safe space where I wouldn't be on fire and see how far it'd take me. Oh, it turns out, when you set wood on fire, it burns. But I did find out that you can stand in the little cooking pots, which I forgot to mention. The cooking pots, Zonai device, you can just stick a cooking pot down. A cooking pot. I don't know what I said. Cooking pot. You can stick a cooking pot down. You can cook in it. It is only single use, which I think is reasonable. Otherwise, why would you ever use a normal cooking pot? But if you really are in dire need of some food, you can just sort of go, oh, okay, I can quickly make a meal now just to tide me over, which is wonderful. Oh, another highlight was, like, this puzzle I had where you had to create a bridge using this rotatable thing, and you rotated it with the Ultra Hand. You know, fairly straightforward as puzzles go, but what was interesting was that there was this chest dangling down via sort of a vine, and I was like, I know what I can do there. And you spin it around. I think you might have just been able to use the Ultra Hand on it now that I think about it, and just lifted it up. But, you know, I spun it around and sort of coiled it so the chest was on the top. It was good. I can't believe I've got so much to talk about after just 70 minutes with the game, and yet I feel like you know the expression where you barely scratch the surface? I don't think I've even seen the surface. Like, I think this is going to be just astronomical, this game. Astronomical. And I mean that in the best way. The only thing that I have a little bit of reservation about, and it is only little, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say it, is that there are certain instances where performance isn't ideal, and it's mostly when you're using the Ultra Hand and maybe the fuse system. It's not game-breaking by any means, but it is a little bit disappointing to be using it. To be honest, it reminds me a lot of like version 1 or whatever the launch version of Breath of the Wild was, when you used magnesis in certain, in quite a few areas, where it, you know, sort of creates that big pattern over everything. That seemed to make it chug. So I get the sense that they could probably still improve upon it, and who knows, you know, the build that I'm playing may already be so out of date that performance is a lot better, even in their current build. But I thought I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. The rest of the game, though, fantastic. Oh, and it just looks amazing. Some of the lighting, particularly when you're on the Sky Islands, is just, it's just to die for. I am so excited to finally get my hands on this game, and I honestly, you know, we're still learning about things that you can do in Breath of the Wild, and, you know, a lot of them are very minor. I can see Tears of the Kingdom being that, you know, if not double, approaching tenfold. There is so much flexibility. You can just, you know, you can stick a rocket to a Korok, I'm sure. I didn't test it, I can't say for certain, but I'm sure. What happens if you try and shield surf when you got a rocket on your shield? I don't know, but I want to find out. To be brutally honest, I actually walked away a little bit annoyed with Nintendo, I'm not gonna lie, because I only got to play it for 70 minutes, which is, you know, sort of, it's a great criticism to have, it's a great problem to have. But yeah, I was just like, I've come all this way, and I only got to play it for 70 minutes, and I wanted to play it for the rest of my life. And I haven't even been able to see any of the story stuff beyond what we've all seen. This game's going to be huge. It's going to be absolutely huge in every sense of the word. And if what I've played is any kind of glimpse into what the full final game is going to be like, which one would hope it is, it's going to be history. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for putting up with my performance. This isn't how I wanted to do the video, obviously. It's a bit of a downer, but I wanted to make the most of it, and it's too important. And thankfully, it's Tears of the Kingdom, so it's easy to get excited about still, even if it hurts to express that. If you like this video, then why don't you strap that subscribe button to a passing friend, and be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye bye.